Hi there. I'm here to talk to you about the trauma science program here at the University of Birmingham. My name is Professor Zubair Ahmed. I'm a professor in neuroscience. So some of the key personnel are myself as the program director, and I have a deputy who's Professor Tony Beneath, and we have an administrator of the trauma science at contact.bham.ac.uk website. Here's the link to our website if anybody hasn't seen it yet, but please do go onto that website and have a look. It has all the entry requirements and a lot more detail as well. But here I'll give you a flavor of what you will be doing as part of this program if you were to study this. So the very first question is, why study trauma science? Well, there's a huge rise in the incidence of trauma, and this is because of an aging population and lots of increased road use, primarily, but also lots of conflicts around the world. The WHO say that by 2030, trauma will be one of the leading causes of death, and it may even surpass heart disease and cancer, because of the fact that we're all living longer and we're all driving, and motor vehicle accidents and all sorts of things are on the increase as well. Here are some examples of trauma. I'm sorry about the goriness of the pictures, but the top left is a car accident that's occurred, and there's a patient on the side. Here, obviously, you can come up to a scene where there's been a motorcycle accident. There's also been a fire, etc., etc. And then we have the other environment, in an austere environment. This is the military environment that we're talking about. And I'll let you know why I've put the military aspect in there in a moment. The other example of trauma is concussion, for example. So everybody's familiar with this. This is from the recent Football World Cup. A player was knocked over, and despite referees and despite the doctor demonstrating to him not to re-enter the play, he obviously did. But we know that repeated bashes to the head can be bad for you and can set off a whole cascade of molecular processes that can lead to dementia and other types of long-term diseases that you may face in later life. So we're advising the Rugby Football Union, for example, but also the Football Players Association about when players, if they've been concussed, when they can come back to play. And also we're developing biomarkers of concussion, so that we can tell people how concussed they are and how long they need to recover before they re-enter play. Why study in Birmingham? Well, Birmingham is one of the top 20 universities in the UK. It's one of the Russell Group universities, so very research intensive. It's one of the top 10 in the UK for graduate prospects. And it spends one of the highest amounts per student on facilities alone. So the university spends on average £2,219 per student. And the other amazing characteristic is that nearly 80% of our students achieve a first or a 2-1 undergraduate degree. So these are really some things that really put out Birmingham as a choice for you if you were to select to come to Birmingham. A beautiful medical school. It doesn't always look like that. This is in the summer. And then obviously we've got the adjoining QE, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, a great resource where it's a great partnership between a university and a hospital in order to teach, but also a ready population of patients that we can trial out some of our therapeutics that we discover in the lab. So we can take the whole discovery side of things from research way into clinical trials and eventually implementation into the NHS and the wider public. There's been some great campus developments lately. So we've got a new library, a brand new sports centre, a massive, beautiful sports centre, and lots of teaching spaces. Here, example, is the teaching hub. And so there's lots and lots of developments, and you'll constantly see improvements going on in the university in order to enhance your experience when you're a student here. So why specifically study trauma science in Birmingham? Well, Birmingham is the only face-to-face trauma science program in the whole of the UK. There is one other one that runs in the UK. It's from one of the London universities, but it's all online. So, and it's part-time as well, over 2 years. So this is a fully full-time, there is a part-time option, but it's a full-time and part-time option, face-to-face, and it's taught by leading experts in trauma science. So we're all embedded in huge amounts of research facilities and research programs that we're doing. And one key thing is that we're both from a civilian background, but also a military background. We're very lucky in Birmingham to house the Centre for Defence Medicine, and they occupy one wing of the hospital as well with all of their patients. So there's a lot of two-way learning from both civilian and military colleagues. And obviously we've developed lots of interactive teaching methods that you will see when you come to Birmingham in order to study this program. So you might ask, what are the background of students that are doing trauma science or have done trauma science? The trauma science program has been running since 2014, so it's been running successfully for about 7 years now. And we have doctors, so these are full-time doctors. They take day release in order to come and do this course over the whole year. We've got intercalating medical students, so they've done 4 years of medical degree and then they can intercalate for 1 year. We have nurses, physiotherapists, paramedics, occupational therapists, emergency medical services, so they're like our paramedics here in the UK, psychologists, and even microbiology. So anybody who has a biological science background, we would accept onto the course as long as they meet the minimum requirements. And if you want to know about the minimum requirements, please go and have a look at the website. It gives you all of the details about what the requirements are. If there's a requirement for English, it's also there as well, and it tells you what level of English we require in order to study this program. So what are the topics that you might face during this program? Well, we'll be looking at trauma and its epidemiology. You know, how many people are affected? What's the prevalence? What type of people are affected? What age of people are affected? We then look at some of the biological aspects, and we'll be looking at systemic, immunological, and metabolic responses to injury. Very important in order to understand the background of what happens. Then we'll be doing basics of wound healing. We have lots of critical care, rehabilitation, even devices and prosthetics, because this is a big arm of what we do as well in terms of rehabilitation. And obviously there's a lot of techniques and evidence for use in the pre-hospital arena. Pre-hospital medicine is a very big area in our university. Obviously you'll have what happens in an emergency department, in the theatre, and also the intensive care and the ward environments as well. The skills that you will be expected to attain, or you will attain hopefully, are critical evaluation. You know, look at something critically and analyze it critically, and then critique on it and give improvements. And this is something that we're looking at, your critical side of things. Obviously, you'll have the critical analysis of both the theory, you know, why is it that we do this in practice? What's the theory behind it? So that's what we'll be hoping to link up practice with theory here. Advanced reasoning, you know, and you'll be able to formulate a research hypothesis. Very important going forward if you want to do higher degrees, or even if you want to do some research in your work environment. And obviously writing reports. There's also oral presentations. There's also a poster presentation. And lots of added things that we do with our students is we can send them on conferences as well, and the trauma science budget pays for them for the fees and to attend the conferences. So if there's something really nice and something really useful, we'll send you to a conference. We regularly send at least 5 to 10 people from the course onto conferences and pay for all their expenses to go to that conference. So hopefully it'll give you a more rounded approach. Obviously, the key aims of the MSc Trauma Science program is to explore what the theory behind what the practice is. And there's various routes of specialism. And this is deliberately varied as long as you have a biological science background. And we tailor the needs depending on the cohort of students that we have. So one of the things we do is to tailor your learning experience. So you will come to talk to one of us, or one of the program directors or the deputy, and we will then ask what you want out of the course, and we will try and help you as much as we can in order to facilitate what you want out of the course too. And that way we can tailor your experiences. So if you're a nurse and you want to improve your nursing practice, we can put you into all of those scenarios. And the other thing we do is we can get you honorary contract to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and then you can go and attend ward visits, ward rounds. You can go and look around the facilities, obviously with one of our staff members who work there. But it is a great opportunity, and you can get some real, hands-on experience of what happens in managing trauma patients. And obviously, as I've shown you, there's clear pathways for everybody essentially during the program, physiotherapists, nurses, doctors, scientists, and military personnel. One of the questions I get asked very frequently is, do you need a medical degree to do this? No. In fact, what we've seen is that those who are working, doctors who are working versus scientists, biomedical science degree graduates who are not working, do a lot better in terms of the degree outcome than doctors who are very busy and don't have that much time to be able to spend. So you don't need, you know, a medical degree to be able to complete this course. We will give you all the tools and the necessary background knowledge to be able to complete the course very effectively without having a medical degree. So the structure of the program is based over the 2 semesters and the summer period, sorry, so that's the 3rd semester. In the 1st semester, the very first one you do is the Introduction to Trauma Science. This is a 20 credit module, very deliberately slow paced because some of our students haven't been in academia for about 4 or 5 years. So to get back into academic practice and academic, you know, inquiry, you just need a little bit more practice. So it's deliberately slow and we get you geared up. At the same time, you'll also do a distance learning research methods. So the research methods will teach you how to design a research project. And then one of the outcomes is that you'll produce a research design, which you'll submit, and that gets graded. That research design you can then use for the research dissertation right at the end if you wanted to. One of the other modules we do is critical care, torso trauma and burns management in the 1st semester. Then you'll have a break and then you come back, you do neurotrauma, musculoskeletal trauma and rehabilitation, and a very popular conflict trauma module. So we've got our military colleagues who run this module and they'll teach you everything about conflict and how to deal with patients in a conflict scenario in the austere environment where there isn't the wonderful facilities that we have in hospitals where you have everything, where it's essentially occasionally damage limitation and mostly pre-hospital. And so, you know, conflict trauma is a great addition to our thing, facilitated by our military colleagues. And then finally, a big part of this, which is 60 credits, is a research dissertation. So from May onwards, we will do, you know, a project, and often people do laboratory-based projects, or you can do, if you're working in a hospital already, you can do it at the workplace. And we can discuss about that, you know, when you start the program, about what type of study would be good for you. If you're very busy, we could get you to do a systematic review, which is what quite a few of our professionals choose to do. Okay, so that's the structure of the program. There are 7 different modules essentially to complete. And usually it starts in September and ends in August. Okay, so here are the timings. So October, September, October, this is 2020, should be 2022. Then the distance learning starts in October as well. Your critical care, the module 3 starts in November and goes through December and a little bit of January. The neurotrauma usually begins in February. The conflict trauma will begin in March the year after. Musculoskeletal trauma rehab will start in April, and then the research dissertation will start in May and in August. The deadline for the research dissertation is usually the last day of August. Okay, I'll just skip over those term dates. You can get those term dates from the thingy. In terms of assessments then, there are varied types of assessments. We do multiple choice questions, we do short answer questions, we do short essays, so you might have 2,500 words that you have to write. We do case studies, poster presentations, and also oral presentations. So in all of the modules, you'll get a variety of different ways of communicating your ideas, your thoughts, your findings to your colleagues, but also to the examiners. And this way, it will make sure that you have a variety of different ways of communicating as part of one of the outcomes of the master's program. And finally, then, the biggest added benefit, or one of the biggest added benefits, is that a lot of our students produce publications. So whatever they do for their dissertation, we adapt that, and we've published lots of different, and here are some examples from previous years. These are just 6 examples, but I think we've got a bank of about 20 now that have published already. So not only will you get a master's, hopefully you'll come out with a publication as well, and this will help going forward and look very good in your CV. Okay, so that's the trauma science program in the University of Birmingham. I'll stop there and stop for any questions. Thank you.